Well, for the last several days, the media has been in a panic because the commander-in-chief, along with the Secretary of War, called all of the generals and admirals in the military who are available to Quantico, Virginia, to have a face-to-face meeting. And so the commander-in-chief and Secretary of War could address them face-to-face, look them in the eyes, and tell them what's expected of them. And apparently that's a constitutional crisis. Yes, that's right. The civilian control of the military, exercising control over the military by calling a meeting, is a constitutional crisis. Well, this has never been done before. I don't know. I think it has been done before. I'm pretty sure that back in World War II, when Roosevelt wanted to deal with his generals, they didn't have a Zoom call. I'm pretty sure Lincoln called his generals in rather than have some sort of FaceTime with them. Why is everyone so stupid in Washington, D.C. and in the media? Well, the meeting is over, and we've got some reports and some live video. Well, not live video, but we took live video from the event. Let's start with Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief, as he was about to board Marine One to head over to Quantico.
I'm going over. I'm going to be meeting with generals and with admirals and with leaders. And if I don't like somebody, I'm going to fire them right on the spot.
I love that that was the mic drop moment as he, I'm going down. I got to meet with him, and if I don't like him, I'm going to fire him. And he can. He didn't, by the way, spoiler alert. But Secretary of War Hegseth actually did lay out some new standards for the generals and all of the officers and enlisted in their ranks about what's now expected from the military.
This, and I want to be very clear about this, this is not about preventing women from serving. We very much value the impact of female troops. Our female officers and NCOs are the absolute best in the world. But when it comes to any job that requires physical power to perform in combat, those physical standards must be high and gender neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it. That is not the intent, but it could be the result. So be it. It will also mean that weak men won't qualify because we're not playing games. This is combat. This is life or death. As we all know, this is you versus an enemy hell-bent on killing you. To be an effective, lethal fighting force, you must trust that the warrior alongside you in battle is capable, truly physically capable of doing what is necessary under fire. You know, this is the only standard you would want for your kids and for your grandkids. Apply the War Department Golden Rule, the 1990 test, and the E6 test, and it's really hard to go wrong.
Now, this deserves some important context and analysis. Now, up until now, for the last couple of decades, generals and officers in command have gotten the exact opposite message from the Secretary of Defense and the Commander-in-Chief. And that was lower standards, change standards, modify standards so that you can achieve the goals of diversity and inclusion. And that's always delivered via email or some sort of PowerPoint presentation or just a memo, because the Secretary of Defense and the Commander-in-Chief didn't want to look their leaders in the eye and tell them that they were reducing standards to meet a goal that has nothing to do with winning wars. Now that the Secretary of War and the Commander-in-Chief are actually saying, no, our priority is to make sure we meet the physical standards required and necessary to win in combat. He wants to stand there and own those words, own those policies, and not deliver it in some memo or email. He's looking them square in the eye and saying, yes, this is what's expected. That takes balls, frankly, and it's the right way to do it. Let's also be clear that he kept reiterating in that passage right there with regard to physical standards for women and men that this had to do with combat roles. Combat. If you are going to be performing in combat, whether you're a man or a woman, you've got to meet certain physical standards. Otherwise, it is what it is. And I just want to say, as the father of a young woman in the military, a junior officer, I appreciate this. I appreciate this on two levels. Number one, if my daughter does not meet the physical standards for a combat role, I don't want her going into combat. Number two, if my daughter does meet the physical standards for going into combat and she is sent to combat, I want to make sure that the man or woman on either side of her can also meet those goals. What's wrong with that? Nothing is wrong with that. And that doesn't mean that women are going to be excluded from the military. It means that men and women who can't meet physical standards will be excluded from combat roles in the military. And that's a bare minimum of what we should expect from our military. Hegseth then turned his sights on the physical fitness of the men and women that were sitting in that room, the flag officers, the generals, the admirals, because, well, you've seen these dudes. You've seen some of the women. You look twice at them thinking, hold on, you're a general? Because you don't look like you could do a push-up.
With physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a four-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the joint force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our joint force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already.
In other words, no more fat generals, no more fat admirals, and no more fatzos in the military. You're going to do PT every day. And if you are concerned that you don't meet the physical requirements to be able to do PT every day, just show up and do it every day. And before you know it, you're going to be just fine. That's how physical training works. And if you can't do that, then, well, you know how to get out. In fact, with all of the policies that were directed, and again, I just want to reiterate how important it is that the Secretary of Defense, a lot of people have been complaining about Pete Hegseth going out and doing all these public displays with cameras around of running and ground fighting and push-ups and pull-ups and all this stuff. It hasn't been there for a photo op. It's not there just to show off. It is there to inspire other young men and women who value their physical fitness and physical training and want to be a part of a culture and work ethic that has those demands and expectations on them. So it has increased recruitment for the military. But the reason that he's been doing it for the last 9 months is for one very important reason. So he could stand here today, look these generals in the eyes and say, if I can do it, civilian leadership of the military, you all can do it. You're in uniform. And that's a very powerful message. And I want to reiterate, standing there, calling them all here from all around the world to sit there and hear this message delivered directly to them is incredibly powerful and, frankly, is the right, respectful, honorable thing to do. That's what the military is supposed to be about. And Hegseth had one more message about the physical fitness requirements and any of the other policies that the new administration and the new Pentagon has laid out for the leadership here, for all the generals and admirals, because he understands that not all of them are on board. He understands that not all of them are thrilled with the new direction of the military. He understands that a lot of them signed up under Bill Clinton or under Barack Obama, and they had a very different vision of the military, and that vision has changed now. And by the way, the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, very specifically ran on this. If you watch any of the stump speeches that Trump gave in the 2024 election, part of it was, we're going to fix the military. They're going to go back to war fighting again, and they're going to change their focus and change their priorities. So this should have been expected. But he recognizes not everybody's on board, and he had a message for those people who are not on board.
To our great republic, at great sacrifice to yourselves and to your families. But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. We would thank you for your service. But I suspect, I know, the overwhelming majority of you feel the opposite. These words make your hearts full. You love the War Department because you love what you do, the profession of arms. You are hereby liberated to be an apolitical, hard-charging, no-nonsense, constitutional leader that you joined the military to be. We need you locked in on the M, not the D, the E, or the I, not the DEI or the DIE of dime. By that I mean the M, military, of the instruments of national power. We have entire departments.
I can just tell you from my own personal experience, and I'm sure a lot of you are either in the military, retired military, or you have family members or friends who are either in the military, in the reserves, or still serving or retired from the military. And go ahead and let me know if your experience is the same as mine. Let me know in the chat or in the comments if you're watching on demand. Based on everybody I know in the military, active duty and retired, every single thing Hegseth just said resonates with them. They've been dying to hear this from their leaders. It's been decades since they heard this from the leaders. President Trump was then introduced by Pete Hegseth, and it was quite a scene as all of the generals did what is appropriate and customary. They silently and respectfully stood at attention when the president came out. It's not something President Trump is used to when being introduced to a room full of people. So watch what happened. It's actually pretty funny.
So ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the 45th and 47th President of the United States, our Commander-in-Chief, Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, Pete. Great job you're doing, too. Fantastic job. I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very, don't laugh. Don't laugh. You're not allowed to do that. You know what? Just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank. There goes your future.
That's a great moment. And I love the live action from the camera that caught all of that. But yeah, he was already briefed ahead of time. Just, Mr. President, they're not going to applaud. They're not going to react. They're just going to stand at attention. They're disciplined, and they're told they're not supposed to react. That's why when they started laughing, he goes, don't laugh. Don't laugh. If you don't like what I say, you can leave. Of course, you'll lose your rank. All right. So let's take some highlights of the Commander-in-Chief's address to these generals today. This has been a historic morning, and I'm glad we can share this together. Let's just plow through these.
We're bringing back a focus on fitness, ability, character, and strength. And that's because the purposes of American military is not to protect anyone's feelings. It's to protect our republic, and it's the republic that we dearly love. It's to protect our country. We will not be politically correct when it comes to defending American freedom, and we will be a fighting and winning machine. We want to fight, we want to win, and we want to fight as little as possible. You have to count on people like me to keep you out of wars, because we don't want to go into wars.
All right. All of that is music to their ears, by the way. And I do like the fact that he sort of laid out there saying, we're not here to protect anybody's feelings. We're here to protect the country. We're here to protect the homeland. That's our priority, not protecting people's feelings. Sorry, not sorry. And he also reiterated, and most of these generals agree with this, we want you to be the best on the planet in the history of warfare so that no one F's with us. The whole point of the money that we spend and the training that we do and the armaments we invest in for these soldiers and airmen and sailors and seamen and Marines to utilize, and Guardians, sorry, Space Force, the whole point of that investment is so it never has to get used in war. I'm a president who wants the military to be the very greatest in our history so it never has to be used in war. That's Trump's approach to all of this. And then he went on to talk a little bit about the nation that these men and women are dedicated to serving, and about the problems that we've had in some of our major cities in this country, because the military might be called at various times to reinforce law enforcement to bring order to those cities as well. Take a listen.
I went out to dinner with my crew. I haven't done that. In theory, I wouldn't do it. And I felt totally safe. And nobody's been attacked. Nobody's been hurt. Washington, D.C. went from our most unsafe city to just about our safest city in a period of a month. We had it under control in 12 days, but give us another 15, 16 days. It's perfect. And people other than politicians that look bad, they think, the Democrats run most of the cities that are in bad shape. We have many cities in great shape too, by the way. I want you to know that. But it seems that the ones that are run by the radical left Democrats, what they've done to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very unsafe places. And we're going to straighten them out one by one. And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war too. It's a war from within. Controlling the physical territory of our border is essential to national security. We can't let these people in.
All right. And then the president, hate to break it to you if you haven't seen the news already, and it's going to get a whole lot of attention. So it's better that you hear it from me and see it from me here, framed properly. The president, in the middle of this address, he dropped the N-word. I'm just telling you, watch.
That people throw around that word. I call it the N-word. There are two N-words, and you can't use either of them. You can't use either of them. And frankly, if it does get to use, we have more than anybody else. We have better, we have newer, but it's something we don't ever want to even have to think about.
Of course, I meant nuclear. I don't know what you think I meant. He's talking about our nuclear weapons and our nuclear triad and the strategy of nuclear warfare. It's the N-word. He loves that joke.
Legacy. We don't want that. You walk nice and easy. You don't have to set any record. Be cool. Be cool when you walk down, but don't pop down the stairs. So one thing with Obama, I had zero respect for him as a president, but he would bop down those stairs. I've never said, da-da-da-da-da-da, pop, pop, pop. He'd go down the stairs, wouldn't hold on. I said, it's great. I don't want to do it. I guess I could do it. But eventually, bad things are going to happen. And it only takes once. But he did a lousy job as president.
Okay, I'm not sure what's going on here. But for some reason, Trump went off script and started talking about how you're supposed to go down the steps of Air Force One and how much he admires Obama for bopping down the stairs. I'm sorry, how did he put that again?
Don't bop down the stairs. So one thing with Obama, I had zero respect for him as a president, but he would bop down those stairs. I've never said, da-da-da-da-da-da, pop, pop, pop. He'd go down the stairs, wouldn't hold on. I said,
I mean, it's what Trump does. He goes off script sometimes. I've never seen this part of his shtick, but okay. Don't you think every general plans on writing a book after their service when they retire? They're all writing in their journal or in their diary as they're heading back to their post right now about this speech and about Trump talking about Obama bopping down the stairs. All right. He went back on script eventually, though. Go ahead, Mr. President.
every single one of them hit its target. It was total obliteration. CNN, when we came back, fake news CNN, oh, their camera just went off. You know, their camera, every time I mention them, they turn the camera up because it's never good. They say, this is a problem. I don't blame them. You're better off keeping it off. But they have some scammer reporter who started saying, without any knowledge, said, he may not have hit the targets as well as they thought. It may not have been obliteration. He did hit the targets, and I got to give us a little credit, right? It was obliteration, it turned out.
Of course, President Trump was talking about the successful strike against the Iran nuclear facilities But really, the main focus of this part of the speech has to be fake news CNN. By the way, people in the military love this. Every single one of the generals and admirals who were involved in the incredible strike against the Iran nuclear facility, they know what an incredible feat of military genius they carried off. They know what was involved in coordinating the Air Force and the Navy in getting that done. And they know that when CNN went out and tried to undermine their abilities and undermine their effectiveness, it was rude, it was disrespectful, and it was frankly offensive to the men and women. And think about the pilots who flew 36 hours in their stealth bombers to get over to Iran from Missouri. Think about all of the support personnel that were needed to do that. Think about the submarine in the Persian Gulf that fired their, I believe they were Triton missiles at the bunker and hit the target from underwater by within the size of a quarter. And then they get some idiot reporter on CNN. We're told that it really didn't do much damage, and they know better. And they love the fact that the president goes after the media for undermining their ability and all the work that they've done. And I love it, and you should too. By the way, I believe he had more to say about the media in his remarks. Why not?
But fortunately, the military didn't believe it. It's hard. You know, they make up a statement and they said, you say it. We had 25 people that said he never said that. 25. We had 25 affidavits. And they said, well, we're going with it anyway. You know, these sleazebags. And it's why the press is really losing all power, because people aren't believing it. We need an honest press. We need borders. We need borders. We need an honest press. We need fair elections. I mean, those three things. And we don't have an honest press. We have a really corrupt press, but we fight through the corrupt press. And the people understand you have to do this stuff a lot. You have to go on television a lot because you can't get a fair shake if you're going to rely on somebody else. They don't understand. They've destroyed the image of media now is at the lowest point it's ever been. It's lower than Congress. Can you believe that? It's
all right, and that is our cursory wrap up of the president's remarks to the military and the Secretary of War's remarks to the military. Just wrapped up about an hour ago, and you're going to see a lot of analysis and a lot of hair on fire about this thing. There was nothing abnormal about this other than commanders in chief haven't done this in a while because they haven't had the same focus on the military that this president and Secretary of War has, and they haven't radically altered the course and direction of the military the way this president has done in focusing once again on what the Department of War, formerly Defense, was designed to do, which is have the best, most capable, well-equipped military focused on their job of winning wars. Because of the mission creep that the Pentagon has undergone for the last several decades, focusing on social justice and diversity and inclusion and worrying more about hurting the feelings of the people who wear uniform rather than, you know, hurting the livelihood and well-being of our enemies. Well, because that mission creep has taken over, they've never called all the generals together and say, okay, we've got a new focus now. We're going to focus on diversity, because that's never how it happens. It's always little by little by little that the focus of an original smart and well-intentioned government program like the Department of Defense or War, they never change on a dime like that and degrade and ruin the focus that they were originally created for. It always happens little by little, memo by memo, policy by policy, email by email. And before you know it, after 20 years, you look around saying, what the hell are we doing here? We're not even focused on our mission anymore. And that's never done with a big speech with everyone gathered in one room. But when you turn back and you refocus everyone, that's when you have everyone in the room. That's when you crack the whip a little and say, stop, turn around and go back to where we started. That's what we're doing now. And if you're not following with us, that's fine. Thank you for your service. There's the door. That's what today was all about. Don't believe any of the other noise you're going to hear on cable news tonight.